Vlad III, also known as Vlad the Impaler, was a monarch who became well known for his brutal and sadistic methods of ruling, leaving a lasting impact on both the history of his region and the cultural perception of vampires. To fully understand Vlad the Impaler, we must first focus on 15th century Eastern Europe. Much of Eastern Europe was characterized by a feudal social structure, where land was the primary source of wealth and power. Most of the population worked as peasants on the land owned by the nobility. Also, many more events were occurring at this time in the east of Europe. The Mongols, led by Batu Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, controlled a significant portion of the region, including parts of present-day Russia and Ukraine. They also influenced the political and cultural development of Eastern European states, with some adopting elements of Mongol administration and culture. For example, some Eastern European states incorporated Mongol military tactics, such as the effective use of mounted archers and swift cavalry maneuvers, into their own armies. This was particularly evident in the military strategies of the Lithuanian and Polish forces. Speaking about Lithuania and Poland, in 1386, the marriage of the Lithuanian Grand Duke Jagiella to the Polish Queen Jadwiga led to the establishment of the Polish-Lithuanian Union. This was a powerful alliance as Lithuania was able to expand its territories. The fact that they were even able to defeat the Teutonic Knights just shows how powerful their union had allowed them to become. The Teutonic Knights were involved in crusades in the Baltic region, but the Battle of Grunwald in 1410 marked the end of their influence in the region. In the early 15th century, the Hussite movement emerged in Bohemia, present-day Czech Republic, inspired by the teachings of Jan Hus. The Hussites rebelled against the Catholic Church, and a series of conflicts known as the Hussite Wars ensued. These wars had political and religious dimensions and contributed to the spread of Protestant ideas. Jan Hus was a Czech reformer and preacher who criticized the practices of the Catholic Church, including issues such as corruption, the sale of indulgences, and the use of Latin in religious services. He emphasized the authority of the Bible and preached in the Czech language, making his teachings more accessible to the common people. Jan Hus was declared a heretic by the Council of Constance, leading to his arrest and subsequent execution in 1415. This event sparked outrage among his followers, leading to the Hussite movement. The Hussite Wars, with their religious and political implications, were centered in Bohemia, and the influence of these conflicts did not extend directly to Vlad the Impaler's rule in Wallachia. However, the Hussite Wars did contribute to broader religious and political developments in Central Europe and influenced the spread of Protestant ideas in the subsequent decades. Vlad the Impaler's reign is more closely associated with his efforts to resist Ottoman expansion in the Balkans and his reputation for cruelty rather than direct involvement in the religious conflicts of Bohemia. Vlad the Impaler saw the Ottoman Empire as a threat as it had expanded into Eastern Europe during the 15th century, posing a significant threat to states such as Hungary and Serbia. The Battle of Kosovo in 1389 and the fall of Constantinople in 1453 were key moments in history as they impacted the geopolitical landscape of the region and Europe as a whole. The fall of the Byzantine Empire had repercussions for the broader Eastern European context, as it changed the balance of power in the region and heightened concerns about Ottoman expansion. If you are enjoying the video and want to stay up to date with our latest content, then make sure to subscribe to Retro Saga. Now let's focus on the early life of Vlad. Vlad was born in 1432. He belonged to the House of Draculesti, a noble family that claimed descent from the legendary Dracula. The name Dracula was associated with his father, Vlad II, who was also known as Vlad Dracul. Vlad the Impaler's father, Vlad II, ruled Wallachia and was a member of the Order of the Dragon, a chivalric order established to defend Christianity against the Ottoman Turks. The title Dracul was derived from the Latin Draco, meaning dragon, and it indicated Vlad II's association with the order. Vlad the Impaler's mother was a noblewoman named Catalina. Vlad had two younger brothers, Radu and Mercia. After Vlad II's death, there was a power struggle among his sons for control of Wallachia. In 1442, Vlad II took his sons, including Vlad III, to the Ottoman court as a show of loyalty to the Ottoman Sultan Murad II. Vlad and his brother Radu were held as hostages in the Ottoman court to ensure the loyalty of their father. During his time in captivity, Vlad the Impaler was exposed to Ottoman politics and military tactics. This experience had a lasting impact on him and influenced his later rule in Wallachia. After a period of captivity, Vlad III was released and returned to Wallachia. His father, Vlad II, had died during this time, and Vlad sought to claim the throne. However, political turmoil and conflicts with his half-brother, Vladislav II, ensued. Vlad is seen as a complex and multifaceted character due to the approach he had in ruling over his country. He became infamous for his brutal and sadistic methods of ruling, leaving a lasting impact on both the history of his region and the cultural perception of vampires. His ruthless tactics included impaling his enemies on long, sharp stakes, a method that earned him the macabre moniker Vlad the Impaler. This form of execution was intended not only to instill fear in his enemies, but also to serve as a warning to potential invaders. In 1448, Vlad ruled for the first time as voivode of Wallachia. The title voivode is a historical term used to refer to a military commander or a governor in Eastern European countries, particularly in the medieval and early modern periods. The title was most commonly used in the Slavic and Romanian regions. A voivode could have various roles depending on the context and the specific country. In some cases, a voivode was a military commander or a military governor responsible for defending a region or leading military campaigns. In other instances, the term was used more broadly to denote a ruler or a high-ranking official, often with both military and administrative responsibilities. In Vlad's case, it was used to define him as a ruler. His first reign was actually short-lived as he faced opposition and was eventually overthrown just after a few months. This could have been because of the many challenges he seemed to face. Rival factions, including other Wallachian boyars and political opponents, were backed by external forces, including the Ottomans. His defiance of the Ottoman Sultan and refusal to pay the customary tribute contributed to tensions between Wallachia and the Ottoman Empire. Following his overthrow, Vlad III went into exile and sought support from various European powers, including Hungary. He would later return with Hungarian backing to reclaim the throne in his more well-known second reign. In 1456, Vlad was imprisoned in Hungary for many reasons. Up to this point, Vlad had been allied with Hungary, joining forces against the Ottoman expansion. However, this alliance was complex due to the fluidity of political landscapes. This meant that there was a shift in allegiance as Vlad was more concerned about his own land. There were concerns among Hungarian leaders, including Matthias Corvinus, about Vlad's loyalty and the potential threat he posed. Vlad's strategic and ambitious nature made him both a potential ally and a potential adversary. Vlad spent about 12 years in Hungarian captivity. His imprisonment was not always harsh, and there is evidence to suggest that he had some degree of freedom during this time. Some accounts even mention that he had a Hungarian wife during his captivity. Vlad's release from captivity was facilitated by political maneuvering. In 1462, Vlad orchestrated a plan that would negatively affect the Ottoman expansion of Eastern Europe. This event was known as the Night Attack. This was when Vlad launched a successful night raid against the Ottoman camp. His forces infiltrated the enemy camp, causing chaos and confusion. Although this event highlighted Vlad's strategic acumen, it also highlighted the brutality of his methods, as he left thousands of Ottoman soldiers impaled on stakes. After successfully repelling an Ottoman invasion, Vlad ordered the construction of the Forest of the Impaled. This gruesome display consisted of thousands of impaled corpses, serving as a horrible warning to any who dared challenge his authority. The sheer scale of this act is a testament to Vlad's ruthless determination. The Forest of the Impaled served as a horrifying spectacle strategically designed to instill fear and act as a deterrent to future adversaries. Vlad intended to create a psychological barrier, highlighting the consequences that awaited those who dared to challenge his authority. This is a clear demonstration of his brutality in military combat. The Impaled were Ottoman prisoners of war and captured soldiers. The Forest of the Impaled was likely situated near the outskirts of the city of Targovice, the capital of Wallachia. The impaled bodies were arranged in a forested area, creating a horrifying and surreal landscape. Impalement was a particularly brutal and slow form of execution. Victims were typically placed on long, sharp stakes, often entering through the rectum or lower torso and exiting through the mouth or upper torso. The stakes were then planted in the ground, and victims were left to die in agony. The forest of the impaled had a profound impact on the Ottoman forces. Witnessing the horrific scene, Sultan Mehmed II is said to have retreated, realizing the extent of Vlad's brutality. This retreat contributed to Vlad's short-term success in repelling the Ottoman invasion. The forest of the impaled remains a haunting symbol of Vlad the Impaler's reign, reflecting the extreme measures he was willing to take to secure his rule and resist external threats. This gruesome episode continues to be a focal point in discussions about Vlad's historical legacy and the nature of power in medieval Eastern Europe. Vlad also faced many conflicts, both internally and externally. One example of this is his conflict with the Saxon merchants in Transylvania. His policies, which aimed at securing Wallachia's economic interests, led to tensions and violent confrontations with the Saxons. These events further demonstrate Vlad's willingness to use force to achieve his goals. Transylvania, where many Saxons resided, was a region with economic importance. The Saxons were involved in trade, and their economic activities were essential for the prosperity of the area. Vlad's policies aimed at securing Wallachia's economic interest often clashed with the interests of the Saxon merchants. Vlad implemented strict trade regulations that affected the Saxon merchants. He sought to control and regulate commerce to ensure that Wallachia benefited from economic activities. These regulations, however, were met with resistance and protest from the Saxon community. During his reign, Vlad engaged in written correspondence with the Saxon merchants. These letters reveal a more diplomatic side of Vlad as he tried to address the economic conflicts and maintain stability in the region. However, his responses were often stern, reflecting his unwavering commitment to Wallachian interests. One of the most infamous events in Vlad's conflicts with the Saxons occurred in 1459. Angered by their resistance to his trade policies, Vlad retaliated with a brutal massacre. Thousands of Saxons were killed, and their bodies were impaled in a manner reminiscent of Vlad's other infamous acts. Vlad's actions against the Saxons were characterized by a sense of retribution. The Saxon massacre was a clear example of his uncompromising stance when he perceived a challenge to his authority or the interests of Wallachia. The conflicts between Vlad and the Saxons had a lasting impact on the relationship between Wallachia and Transylvania. The violence and tensions during Vlad's rule contributed to a strained relationship between the two regions, affecting trade and diplomatic ties. This highlights Vlad in a negative way as his brutality was seen to help Wallachia, but in this scenario, it only made it worse. This was because it would take an exceptionally long time for the two nations to fully trust each other again. The strained relationship could have affected the flow of goods and resources, which would have affected the people of Wallachia, the very people that Vlad was trying to protect. Vlad's first wife, whose identity remains uncertain, met a tragic end. Some accounts suggest she committed suicide by leaping from the walls of Ponari Castle to escape Ottoman capture. This was when Vlad was a political prisoner. The events related to Vlad's captivity and any potential details about his first wife's death would have taken place in the 1440s or early 1450s. However, due to the lack of precise historical records and conflicting accounts, the exact timeline remains uncertain. This could have affected his psyche and may be a factor in his later brutal actions against his enemies. Before Vlad's rule, Wallachia, like many Eastern European regions, experienced political instability and conflicts with neighboring powers, particularly the Ottoman Empire and Hungary. The Ottoman Turks posed a persistent threat to Wallachia, and voivodes often had to navigate a delicate balance between resisting Ottoman expansion and maintaining diplomatic relations. The boyars, the noble class in Wallachia, held considerable power. They played a crucial role in politics and often influenced the decisions of the ruling voivode. In contrast, Vlad the Impaler's rule was marked by intense resistance against the Ottoman Empire. This meant that upon Vlad's rising to power, he had already brought a war to Wallachia. This meant that Vlad was determined and that he was not going to be affected by the grand empires on each side of his country. After Vlad's death, Wallachia continued to grapple with geopolitical challenges. The Ottoman threat persisted, and subsequent rulers had to navigate the complex relationships with neighboring powers. Vlad the Impaler's legacy cast a long shadow over Wallachia. The brutal tactics he employed created a culture of fear influencing the way subsequent rulers approached governance and diplomacy. Despite the challenges, Wallachian culture exhibited resilience. The region continued to preserve its traditions, folklore, and distinct identity in the face of external pressures. Wallachia experienced shifts in leadership and internal dynamics in the post-Vlad era. Rulers faced the ongoing challenge of preserving Wallachia's autonomy while navigating the ever-changing geopolitical landscape. Over time, Wallachia witnessed a cultural flourishing that blended local traditions with external influences. The Principality continued to contribute to the diverse cultural tapestry of Eastern Europe. Vlad the Impaler's legacy, while controversial, continues to impact Wallachia's identity. The region's history, shaped by resistance, resilience, and complex geopolitical interactions, contributes to Romania's rich historical narrative. Vlad's association with the Dracula mythology primarily stems from Bram Stoker's 1897 novel, Dracula. Stoker drew inspiration from historical figures, and the character of Count Dracula is often considered a loose interpretation of Vlad the Impaler. While Stoker's Dracula is a fictional character, the connection between Vlad and Dracula has led to Vlad being colloquially referred to as the real Dracula. This link has contributed to the perpetuation of myths and legends surrounding Vlad. The association with Dracula has propelled Vlad into the realm of vampire lore and gothic horror. The blending of historical facts with fictional elements has created a character that captures the imagination of popular culture. Vlad's legacy has influenced various forms of art, literature, and popular culture. His character appears in numerous books, movies, and other media, further contributing to the mystique surrounding him. The Dracula connection has contributed to tourism in Romania. Sites associated with Vlad, such as Bran Castle, are popular attractions, drawing visitors intrigued by the historical and mythical aspects of Dracula. Vlad's legacy is characterized by a blend of fear and fascination. The brutality of his rule, coupled with the mythical associations, has created a figure that continues to captivate and sometimes terrify imaginations. Vlad's personal experiences, including his time in Ottoman captivity, fueled a deep-seated animosity toward the Ottoman Empire. His determination to resist the Ottomans was, in part, a response to the perceived humiliation and hardship he endured during his captivity. Vlad viewed himself as a defender of Wallachian independence against foreign aggression. His resistance was rooted in a sense of nationalism, and he saw the Ottomans as a threat to the autonomy and sovereignty of Wallachia. Vlad's military and political strategies were geared toward resisting Ottoman expansion. His night attack on the Ottoman forces, for example, demonstrated a tactical brilliance aimed at repelling the Ottomans from Wallachian territory. The religious dimension also played a role in Vlad's resistance. As a Christian ruler in a region facing the advance of the Muslim Ottoman Empire, Vlad perceived his struggle as a religious duty to defend Christianity against the Ottoman Turks. Vlad's motivations were deeply rooted in the survival of Wallachia as an independent principality. He believed that resistance against the Ottomans was crucial for the well-being and continuity of his homeland. In summary, Vlad the Impaler's use of impaling as a method of punishment symbolized his brutal authority, while his motivations for resisting the Ottoman Empire were driven by personal experiences, nationalism, a desire for Wallachian independence, strategic considerations, and religious factors. The combination of these elements shaped Vlad's legacy as a complex and formidable historical figure. Here are some lesser-known facts about Vlad. One of Vlad's most controversial acts was the impalement of Ottoman ambassadors who refused to remove their turbans as a sign of respect. While this was a breach of diplomatic protocol, Vlad argued that it was a just punishment for their perceived insolence. Vlad was associated with the construction and repair of several fortresses, including the famous Ponari Castle, perched on a mountain. This castle served both as a defensive stronghold and a symbol of Vlad's commitment to protecting Wallachia from external threats. Vlad the Impaler's reputation endured long after his death. While his brutal methods were controversial, some later Romanian historians portrayed him as a national hero who resisted foreign domination. The conflicting perspectives on Vlad highlight the complexity of his historical legacy. These additional events provide a more comprehensive picture of Vlad the Impaler's life, including his early experiences, political maneuvers, and interactions with various groups during a tumultuous period in Eastern European history. In conclusion, Vlad the Impaler's rule over Wallachia represents a chapter in history marked by brutality, political intrigue, and resistance against external threats. His methods, including the infamous impaling, were not only tools of punishment but symbols of unyielding authority and psychological warfare. Vlad's motivations for resisting the Ottoman Empire were deeply personal, rooted in his experiences during captivity, as well as driven by a fervent sense of nationalism, a commitment to Wallachian independence, and religious considerations. If you are enjoying the video and want to stay up to date with our latest content, then make sure to subscribe to Retro Saga. Also, liking the video will help reach a wider audience. Thank you for your support.